Here's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if you like.
1, 2, 3, set, go.
Hello and welcome to episode 69 of the Power Chord Hour podcast. Hope you're doing well out there, and thank you so much for checking out yet another episode of the show. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Merchant, coming at you very, very late. Definitely not Monday as I normally release these. It is very early Friday, very late Thursday as I'm recording this right now. It is 12, as it says here on the computer, as long as the computer's not lying, 12:26 a.m. And I apologize for a very, very late episode, but I thought better late than never. But it is our June rundown to, get the new month started off. I'm going to talk a little bit about last month and some music and all that stuff. But no new podcast yet. I was out of town, I'm very sporadic, I got to say. I love traveling, and I do a lot of that sporadically. And there's been a lot of, which sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes you do things sporadically like that, and it blows up in your face because you will, like I once sporadically went up in the, New England region for my birthday, my 25th birthday. And my birthday's in, mid-November, and I got up there around my birthday, not thinking that mid-November in New England, might be a little fucking rough. And, some of the, weather-wise and, also things being right on the Atlantic, like some of the more the towns and stuff that were right on the shore and whatnot, things like that were just things closed down, they're seasonal, oh, you should have been here a few months ago, or walking around, you're so goddamn windy that I can't keep a hat on, it's not even fun being out. So you do sporadic things sometimes like that, and it will bite you in the ass. One of the best sporadic trips I think I ever did was a New Year's Day 2020. It would have been New Year's Eve 2019 into New Year's Day 2020. But going to New York City for that, I had a friend kind of last minute cancel some New Year's plans, and I'm just like, fuck it, I'm going to New York City, which I had just been there I was going to say a few months prior. No, not true. A few weeks prior. And it was just kind of I've always wanted to spend New Year's Eve in New York City in Times Square, and I just moved back from Minneapolis, and I was like, I never did it before, I should do it while I'm back here and all that. And what I did not know is that we would have a big ass pandemic 3 months later, so what even better time to get out and enjoy yourself before everything shuts down. But that ended up being a great one, and that was I had the idea, and 12 hours later I was driving to Newark, New Jersey, to get on the subway or the train or whatever to take me. The best deal. You go there, instead of driving to New York City, you go there. It's $10. Not even. It's $8.50 or some shit for a round trip ticket from Newark to. They drop you off right at Penn Station next to Madison Square Garden. So you're right in Times Square. But yeah, so sporadic shit like that can be fun. But anyways, I had that this week. That is why there's no podcast, because my sporadic ass decided to drive up Route 6 in Pennsylvania. I always like taking routes. Route 66 obviously being the most famous and probably the one that I would credit to get me into that kind of stuff. But just going up there and going through small towns through Pennsylvania. I love old architecture. Just seeing random things. Going through a town that has there's really nothing there and not a lot to see, but there's one really cool building that looks like it's straight from 1932 or something. I saw this really amazing it was a photography place, but it was from the 20s or 30s, and just it looked Art Deco, and it was all original. It was all not some kind of reproduction or anything like that. This was, and well kept too. Just amazing. Shit like that. You drive through towns where it's there's not a whole lot of reason to be here but to drive through it, but it's those roadside attractions and those little things to stop and look at. So I love doing that. So it's a mixture of that and also going through Pennsylvania and hitting up a bunch of different hiking spots, and Allegheny National Forest, which it goes through, and like 20, 30 minutes from where I live here, because I'm right on that border. I'm in New York, but I'm right on that PA border. But one of my favorite national forests in the world, one of my favorite places in the world, and just doing shit like that, like going checking that out, and some other places. Pennsylvania like is really, it's not the place you think of if you're like looking for like, they have like Pittsburgh and Philly, but it's like, there's not tons and tons of major cities. It's not a huge destination spot, but like honestly, it's one of the greatest states in the entire country. Like if you like doing outdoor things, it's like, I mean, just a little bit of everything. Like, I mean, there's places, mountains, you have mountains, there's waterfalls and stuff. I mean, there's really, you can find a little bit of everything in Pennsylvania, I feel like, as far as like hiking and nature and all that goes. Like there's some places where you go and it's like, okay, I mean, there's not a lot of like, you'll go to places like that, like maybe in the middle of a small town somewhere. Like I was going in, like there's no industry, there's not a lot like around. There's maybe like, a diner and a bar downtown, on like the one street they have that drives, the main drag, like that's it. And like maybe there's a grocery store. But again, like maybe they don't have that stuff, but it's like they might have amazing trails and like maybe some hidden waterfalls, like, just different, just beautiful views, on top of a hill or a mountain or something, or just beautiful erratic rocks to climb, like just stuff like that, which I love. And, you end up finding in places like that are, and a lot of times too, a lot quieter, because not everyone's thinking of driving up Route 6 to find that stuff. But I think one of the two things, I mean, the best thing I'll get to in a second, but and probably the biggest reason why this is so late, because I was really gone even longer, because I didn't know I would be in New Jersey this week. But yeah, doing that, I drove the whole thing from one end to the other in PA on Route 6. So that was a couple hundred miles, but it was really fun. I think the highlight in Pennsylvania was what they call, and I'd never heard of it before, but the Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania. And I forget the name of the state park. I'm going to have to, my phone's right here. I'm going to have to look it up. But I went there, and maybe after you see that, if you call yourself the Grand Canyon of anything, I'm a fool for a few things. If you put the devil in it, like the Devil's Kettle, the Devil's Blowhole, just things like that, those are two real things. The Devil's Blowhole was in Maui, and the Devil's Kettle is up north in Minnesota. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head of other like there's tons of them. Devil's Tower, like shit like that. And it's like, just put devils in the name and I'll go see it. Cause it's like, just right away, it's one of those things. And another one is if you say the blank, like the Grand Canyon of the blank, like if you put that in there, I'm there. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go check it out. And I was happy I did. Cause at first I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Cause like the Grand Canyon is one thing. I will say, like, there's a lot of things that you'll see, or like places you'll go, and like you kind of romanticize them, or you think they'll be a certain way, and not even that it's always a bad thing, but they're not exactly that or something. But like the Grand Canyon, the first time and every time I've seen it since, is breathtaking, like in a way where I go, holy fuck, like this is as amazing as people say it is. It's one of those things where you go like, oh, they're not overhyping it. Like there's some things you go see and you're like, that's beautiful, but like maybe people really like, it wasn't the thing I thought, everyone was saying. Whereas like the Grand Canyon's one of those ones where I go, no, that's really something to see. But it is called Colton Point. I think that was a state park. But yeah, called Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania. I'd never heard of it. And right off Route 6, and I believe it's called Wellsboro, a cool little town. Like I was talking about, one of those ones with just, and they had, I will say, it wasn't just one street downtown. They had a few streets and a cool like boxcar diner and a couple different things. I love stuff like that. I just love, because you get an appreciation, because you realize it all, like old architecture and shit like that, it just goes away. And, you replace it with like things that are just not comparable and not as like unique, they're not as unique and stuff. Like a lot of this old architecture is unique to that one building, not like a franchise that like, if you go to a McDonald's in Iowa, it looks the same as the one in like Montana, like shit like that. Like, that's why the cool old architecture where it's like, yeah, like some mom and pop place like created this in like the 30s, and it's some wild, cool looking building that really stands out now because nothing looks like that anymore. But anyway, that's what I was doing. And when I got as far as Scranton in Pennsylvania, and it hit me. I'm like, I gotta be near New Jersey, and I knew it because I know when that's one of the routes. If you're going from where I live and you're heading towards New York City or New Jersey, if you're taking I-86, you end up eventually hitting it like dips down into Pennsylvania and you hit Scranton. So I'm like, and if you don't know vintage vinyl, I've talked about a bunch on this show, but one of my favorite record stores in the world, it's definitely, again, I've mentioned it a bunch over the years on the radio show and the podcast, but the owners are retiring. They're going out of business now this month. I don't know the exact date, but they're closing after 30, 40 years, I believe. I think they opened in the late 70s or early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, vintage vinyl, if you don't know, just an amazing record store in Ford's, New Jersey. And just a place that I stopped at anytime I was in New Jersey. And actually not even in New Jersey. I was like Ford's is like, I think it was, I want to say it was like 2 hours from New York City. Because I remember one time I was in New York City and I looked and I'm like, I was heading home and I was like, I could just drive straight home. But how far is vintage vinyl from here? And I think it was like 2 hours from, and also, I mean, New York City is pretty fucking big. So I guess it also depends where you're at in New York City and like how you're exiting to get to Ford's. But yeah, I mean, I will go and the same thing this time. I was like 2 hours out of the way. And again, it's like, I never, I mean, 2 hours is not too far to go to vintage vinyl. And then when they're closing and you can never go there again, going back actually to like I was just saying, one of the things I love about traveling and architecture and shit is just seeing these random places that like may not be there the next time you come through. That cool boxcar diner might be gone, or that cool old building might be a fucking high rise the next time you're there. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, enjoy it while you can. All of this stuff is very temporary. It's not forever. And a record store I love that much that I make it really is like I make a pilgrimage to it anytime I'm anywhere near. And the last time I was there was actually that trip I was talking about for when I went to New York City for New Year's back in good old 2020, a couple months before everything went to shit. But I went there, and another one was just kind of a random stop. Didn't know I was going to be, which just makes it even better. I got to tell you, like buying records is even more sweet when you're like there and you go, why the fuck am I in New Jersey right now? Like I even know, that's how I felt this week. Like when I was like on Sunday night, I even know I was going to be going up Route 6 in Pennsylvania. And then by Tuesday when I was in vintage vinyl, it's like, what the fuck? Like, how am I here right now? Like now that's one of those sporadic ones that pays off. Cause then you're there and you just get so stoked. I'm like, I'm in vintage fucking vinyl right now. Like, cause I kept saying like, oh, I wanted to make one last trip up there. But I mean, it's like 8 hours from my house. Like I didn't really think I was going to make it back up there before they closed. And yeah, I think it was the record gods. They were the ones who's like just put in my head, you got to go Route 6. And once I got to Scranton, it's just like, nope, I know in my heart, it's like I fucking go there. I was sad. They have pictures up because I don't think they did it so much in recent years, but I feel like for a very long time they did tons of in-store performances. And I mean, the walls are lined in there with pictures of the bands performing. And one of them is a picture of Hawthorne Heights playing back in like '04, like way back when their first record came out. But I own their singer JT's guitar, his Gibson SG that he played for the first couple years of the band. And I believe, he also recorded on Silence in Black and White a little bit. I can't remember all the songs. He didn't play the whole thing on it, but it is on there in a couple places. But he played it, and he played that exact one at Vintage Vinyl, and there's a picture of them playing it up on the wall there. And I was really hoping it would still be there when I got there, and it was not. And I was really sad because I was really going to try to get that, because there's just, I mean, Vintage Vinyl, you can probably hear in my voice, I mean, just means like, again, like I go out of my way to go to this fucking place, and then when I go in and I literally see my guitar and a picture on the wall, I get so stoked. Like, I always remember where it's at. I know to go right back there. And there are quite a few pictures off the wall. And I got to say, too, they were skimmed over. They announced they were closing a few weeks ago. And at this point, and I didn't even give a shit about sales. Like, that's how much I'm a cheap bastard. One of the first things I think about is how I'm like, normally if you told me like, oh, store's closing, I'm going to think about the discount I'm going to get. Not here. I just want to go to Vintage Vinyl. I don't give a shit. I'll pay full price. I just want to go there one last time. But I was pretty stoked. I went in there. It was 30% off everything. And but yeah, I mean, even the pictures, like I just said, the pictures on the wall of the bands performing, half of them were gone. I wanted to get a Vintage Vinyl shirt or a coffee mug or something, which now I'm kicking myself because literally every time I go in there, we're talking years now. I mean, there's a montage of me going, I should buy a t-shirt. And then I go, nah, maybe I'll buy it next time. Like, or same with a mug. I go, I don't really drink out of coffee mugs all that often. Like, I only need a few of them. Like, just things like that. Like, every time I'd kind of, because also I'd be spending so much. There's no way I could go in Vintage Vinyl and not drop so much goddamn money. So by the time you got to the shirts and stuff up front near the counter, you're like, fuck this. I can't afford this. Like, I can't afford, there's a shirt to like celebrate that I was at this record store, but if I buy it, I can't afford, all the shit I was about to buy. So yeah, I mean, all that was gone. I was sad, so I couldn't buy a shirt or anything. But as far as the inventory, but I mean, they had such that really is a testament to their inventory because it is pretty mauled over. Like, if you go in there, I mean, there's still records, don't get me wrong, but I mean, like, if you went in with a list of albums you're looking for, you're probably not going to find them. Like, because I had a few, I went in and I'm like, okay, these are things. They had 0 of them. Now, if you just kind of looked for fun, that's where you started finding the stuff. And I mean, listen, I left with one of the biggest hauls I ever made. I really, which actually made up because last time I was there last year, all I bought was Paul Westerberg's Stereo on vinyl because they just pressed that. And that was the only thing I bought. I was trying to be a good boy because I really don't buy records like I used to. But for this, I had to come out of record retirement. I had to come out of it. Again, last time I can go enjoy Vintage Vinyl. Fuck doing the podcast. Fuck doing anything else. I had to go to Vintage Vinyl. So, yeah, went there and, yeah, ended up scoring a bunch of good stuff. And, just looking around. But it's one of those ones. It's like House of Guitars in Rochester. And that's another one. I don't feel like the good stuff is anything I ever go in there looking for specifically. It's the shit I'm randomly finding while skimming through. It's like, it's this random like demo or this random EP or this random cassette or something that you'll just find out of nowhere. That's like not even in the section it should be. And like, there it is. Like there's the whole highlight of the entire trip. And yeah, this time just digging through, what was left. But again, I got a bunch. I got a few John Doe, some of his solo albums on vinyl, which I'm excited to listen to because really, I mean, I love X. But I've really only started getting into them like the last year or so. I really haven't checked out his solo stuff much, and people say how good it is. So, I mean, he is a genius, so I'm excited to listen to those more. Man, what else did I get? Got a bunch of Ramones CDs. What else? Bob Dylan, got some Bob Dylan collections. Lou Reed. Game Face, shout out Jeff Cadill, a friend of the show. We've had him on here a few times. Did get every last tape on vinyl, on yellow vinyl. Looks very pretty. I haven't played it yet, but I have opened it, and looks very cool. I was happy to score that. And funny enough, it's demos off Every Last Time, and I bought Every Last Time on vinyl there a few years ago. So kind of funny that I got both those at Vintage Vinyl. But got those. Drama Rama, another recent guest we had. Oh my God, what is it? Drama in Wonderama Land. Really good record. Just a couple. It was really that where it was kind of like going through and again like just skimming through, and then you'd see things you didn't have like that. Like I mean, like I don't have that Dramarama album on CD, so I'm like or shit like that too. Where it's like nowadays there's so many albums where it's like I'll stream them or like listen to them on like Amazon Music or something, and I don't have them in my iTunes to like, which I mean, for doing the radio show, I need to have a actual physical, or not physical, but I have to have an MP3 to play on the show. So there's a lot of albums too that like I don't, quote unquote own. I like stream them or listen to somewhere. So like that was the other thing. I'm kind of like, well, everything's 30% off and stuff. And it's like I would same with like the Ramones albums. Like there's a few of them where it's like, oh, like I don't have a copy of this. Like I've heard it, but I don't have a copy of it. So, I kind of did that, grabbed some of those. Cool Sylvain record, which was for RCA put it out. They did a whole series, but it was like for radio stations. And it's like a whole segment thing. There's like a live performance and an interview, then a live performance interview. I've never seen it before. Really cool. And I think the neatest thing, and the replacements, because I was got to bring up the replacements on here, but I did get the I'll Be You 45 with a Date to Church as the B-side with Tom Waits. Great B-side. And also I got their, it's a repressing, but they put out a promo 7-inch, I want to say it's when they did the remasters and the the deluxe edition like remasters in 2008 for the CDs that Rhino put out, but that one's also a 7-inch with a Color Me Impressed on it. Really cool. I mean, they were both. I've seen them before and have just never picked them up. And again, it was one of those times where it's like, buy them now. Fucking, this is the time to buy them. So that is what I did. And I just had a great time at Vintage Vinyl, and really, I will miss that place. You never got to be there. Definitely a staple in New Jersey, like record stores. Like I know anyone I know who's like from New Jersey or has just spent time there. I mean, if they're music lovers, they know Vintage Vinyl. Like they've been there, they love it. And I posted stuff online like to friends about when I was like, I just found out, like, I'm like 2 hours away, like I gotta go. Like tons of people from who aren't there anymore, are like, oh man, like end of an era, like what a great place. And a lot of love for Vintage Vinyl. So shout out to them. If you haven't went, you're shit out of luck. You won't get to know the beauty of Vintage Vinyl, but it was pretty damn rad, I will tell you. But see, now this is one like I always tell people, like, hit me up if you want to like talk music or like listen to these, like, if you have an opinion. But it's like I would love to hear Vintage Vinyl stories if you have any. If you because like I never got to see like an in-store performance or anything. And I mean, if you have any good ones, hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. I mean, I don't even know. Let's fucking talk about it. It's not even like for the podcast. Just like I would genuinely like to hear. Like if you loved Vintage Vinyl as much as I did, like let's mourn it. Like hit me up, tell me, stories of you spending too much or seeing a rad band there, getting something cool signed. Really, just a great record store. They're good because the one time I was in there shopping and all of a sudden they just played the Movie Life Has a Gambling Problem EP front to back. Just shit like that where it's like only here, like you'll only a record store in New Jersey, you know what I mean? Like, but another one, all those bands, like I was talking about, like with the performances, like all the pictures on the wall are from like all those drive-through bands and even like Rushmore bands and stuff of like the early 2000s, and just a who's who. Like, I mean, if you were in like a emo pop punk band like in the early 2000s, you probably did an in-store at a Vintage Vinyl, and there were pictures on the wall to prove it. The photograph is proof, and I know that because there's like 4 Taking Back Sunday pictures on their wall. But will be missed very much. But that is my long-winded explanation of why me doing the June rundown is coming out on July 2nd. But you know what? It was worth it, And I also got to, because see, this is the thing. It's like, knowing it was my last time, and I mean, obviously there's Wawas all the fuck over New Jersey, so I mean, those aren't going anywhere. But I would always go to Ford's. I mean, it was like every time I think I did this. There wasn't a time I didn't go to Vintage Vinyl, and then afterwards go to the Wawa that was like 5-10 minutes from it, and just go fucking eat that. After you've spent all that money at Vintage Vinyl, the only place you can afford to eat in all of New Jersey is Wawa, and that's not a bad thing because I've also talked many times on this here podcast that I love gas station food. That I have a very shitty palate and I enjoy shitty food. Not to say Wawa is shitty, not to say that. I just mean I get very excited for gas station food. That's all I mean. And so it's like one more time I had to go hit up the that double threat of a Vintage Vinyl then Wawa. And if I wasn't so broke after and didn't have to get back home, I probably would have headed towards Asbury Park because that's normally my next stop. I'm very much a creature of habit when it comes to like New Jersey. I have like my whole kind of like, like I go there and it's like I'll do other things too. Like you can sprinkle in like I'll go here, here, and here, but it's like somewhere in there is Wawa vintage vinyl, going to like the Pinball Museum on the boardwalk at Asbury Park, like Bagel Masters, just different things like that. And yeah, very sad now that I can't really think of any other reasons I'd be going to Ford's. I don't see myself in that part of New Jersey anytime soon now. Sadly, the vintage vinyl is gone, but it does live on. It does live on in our hearts. And yeah, good. I ended the month. It's funny. I ended the month very strong, obviously, with a nice record haul. You can go check out on our Instagram page. I put up a picture of everything I got while I was there. So if you want to go see all the CDs and vinyl I got, no cassettes. Sadly, I asked, and I'd never seen any in there. And I asked just for the hell of it, maybe thinking I missed them somewhere, because this is a very big store. But I did not, so there are no tapes to go raid while I was there last time. But on top of that, I gotta say a really cool one. I did get Bad Brains. I've talked about that in here. They've been repressing all their old albums. They got the rights back to like most of their catalog, and are kind of slowly putting it all out. But quite a while ago, and it kept getting some, with everyone, the record pressing plants right now, it's just very hard to get stuff out in a timely manner. But I got their first record, which is my favorite, and on a punk note, with alternative punk note cover art, which is very, very cool. It is a nod to the Blue Note label and all those album covers, and like. It's 100% like they got it down. It looks like Blue Note put it out. I mean, it looks awesome. Like, it's cool that it has an alternate cover too. And the original is so iconic. You know what I mean? With the lightning bolt coming down on the Capitol and everything. Like, really, really fucking iconic album cover. But yeah, really cool seeing the punk note and the way they did it. Like even the back of it looks like it's just this really cool old record from decades before the actual album came out, and came out on green vinyl. I think limited to 1,000 copies, which I know it sold fast. I mean, it's definitely going to be a collector's item. Not that I have any plans, because I got to say, like I was really stoked on it. Like I don't collect vinyl much anymore. And that was one where I was like, oh, I got really excited. And another one, too, I ended up getting Green Day's Insomniac on last year. They did the 25th anniversary vinyl reissue with really, really cool. If you've never seen it, they did like a holographic cover for it. And then it comes with a live, it's all of Insomniac, but it's a 2 LP set. And on the second record, there's a live set on the first half, and then on side D is just this really cool etching, like really, really well done, including it was like $30, and that's about what it goes for everywhere right now. But like for a double LP, for a holographic cover, and like a basically a live EP that I don't know it might have been released before this. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say it was unreleased because I can't remember right now. I think it's live from Prague, but like really, like the whole packaging and everything looks really, really fucking cool. And I like that they didn't gouge you for it. You know what I mean? Like with records now, just they've gotten that's such a big reason why I don't collect anymore. It's like I liked records when you could buy them for like a nice gatefold like double LP would be like $25. Like that would be, it's like, okay, that's the expensive one. But it's like, records would be like $15. Like, like I can't anymore. Like I'm not going to spend $30 on a single LP that like, and then sometimes you don't get like a download code and shit like that. You just get to a point of like, all right, fuck this. Like I'm done collecting. Like the fun is gone. The fun, like I had my fun, but it's over. But yeah, ones like this, that the Bad Brains Punk Note and this Green Day Insomniac, both of them did very, very well. I also just randomly, nothing cool with the packaging, but I did get the Stooges self-title on vinyl and Paul Westerberg's eventually on vinyl this month, or last month, I should say, in June. But yeah, which, may not sound like a ton, and didn't sound like a ton to me for years, because again, I used to be like, in my first stop, any city I went to, it's like record stores, and not just one, I'd hit like 3 or 4, and I just don't do that anymore. So, like when I get to a month where like I hit vintage vinyl, buy all that stuff, and get all these other records and everything, it's like that's a big month for me, And Record Store Day was last month too. I didn't go to that. I wasn't looking for a whole lot, but that was one thing. I wasn't sure if Vintage Vinyl got any Record Store Day. Or actually, they did. I take that back. They definitely did because they did Record Store Day. But I didn't know what they'd have left. And I was looking for that Replacements LP that they put out, which are the outtakes from Pleased to Meet Me, which are already on the CD from the Pleased to Meet Me box set they put out last year. So, I mean, I have all the songs, but and I have the box set, but which kind of irks me that they do, which they've done it with the last few Replacements ones, where you do get the same songs, but they only put it on CD, and then they'll sell you the record separately months later, and it's also costs like half of what the whole box set did. It's like if the box set costs like $70, the record's like $35-$40, and it's like, well, what the fuck here? Like, I almost feel like maybe this should have just came with originally. But that was one of the ones I was looking for. Did not find it, sadly. But that was like really the only Record Store Day thing that I was super interested in. That and the Dirty Nil cassettes. But that's another one where it's just like a Replacements one where I'm like, I mean, I have the albums and I've heard the songs. It's just kind of, it's like that collector side of me. And the Replacements are one of the few ones that I do have kind of the completionist thing with, where it's like, all right, like anything they put out, like, all right, I'll get a copy of that on vinyl. I want that. You know what I mean? Like, I'll grab it on like every format. They're like the last band. I used to have more bands that I was like that with, but they're like the last band really where I'm like, I'll kind of, you know what I mean? I kind of like buy anything they put out like that. But yeah, not a whole lot of like new albums I was looking for Record Store Day. But I will say for like older stuff, I had a field day in a way that I had not for a very long time. So I don't know. Maybe I'm having my just like vinyl had its resurgence, like 5-6 years ago. Like really had it. Maybe this is the beginning of my resurgence, and I will soon gouge all my prices, and you will also be able to buy me at Barnes and Noble now. Which is also another. That was around the time I think where I bowed out and got expensive. Whereas like you'd go to like Barnes and Noble had records, and Guitar Center was selling records, and like a Target sold, which I think all these places still do. I'm also saying it's like it's past tense. They all do, but like I think it was around the time where it was like they're doing that, and that also means labor's like, oh hey, like how about a $40 copy of like Dark Side of the Moon, like just like throwing it together, really just like. What classic albums you could probably go buy for a quarter used at a garage sale or in a used bin somewhere like 2 years prior, but like now, like yeah, we're gonna throw a $40 price tag on it and sell it to you in a place where you probably wouldn't even buy music in the first place. But yeah, that was probably about the place that I kind of dropped off. But maybe they're getting me again. Maybe they are getting me again. But yeah, I'm excited for this month. Later on, too, talking about traveling, later this month, I am going to be heading to Denver for a little bit. I want to go check it out, and thinking now that everything's kind of going back to normal, time to start thinking of moving again. I moved back from Minneapolis, moved back here to New York at the end of 2019, and like the plan was really to be here for like 6-7 months, like till like summertime. So like, I was really. I kind of been here a while, and now it's like, all right, pandemic's starting to like die down, and everything with COVID's getting a little better, and yeah, now it's like, all right, like it's time to start really thinking again of moving once again, and yeah, I want to get down there and check it out, but that'll be later this month. Which we'll have episodes. I'm always good at that. I would say in the last 5 years, I've traveled quite a bit while still doing the shows and juggling it, and I'll definitely make sure we have some episodes for you. I've been hitting up some people. I'm waiting to get to hear back, but we should have some rad guests. I do have one in the books, actually. I'll tease it for next week. But top 5 Fat Records releases, and this time I feel like I cheated on them, but not with Zach or Kyle. Actually, with Joey Cobra, my buddy Joey, who is making his 3rd appearance on the show. But a local musician here in Jamestown, and I mean, we talked about it, but it's like anytime he's been on, I mean, I interview him about his music, but it's like we inevitably go to Fat Records just because, I mean, his music is very influenced by it. We're both just in general influenced by, the label and the bands, and it just, the conversation always ends up steering to a Fat Records. So we're like, why not just do a whole episode? So that's been recorded. We did that last week, But he came here to the WRFA studios, and you can't see because this is obviously an audio medium, but I'm looking right now exactly where he was sitting. And yeah, we just had a blast. It was fun too because like I was like, I wonder if our list will be like similar or not. I mean, I kind of thought it would be because I know we have a lot of our same like favorites on the label are mutual. But I was happy because like all of our albums that both of us picked were kind of ones where we're like, oh, like that's a great pick because it's like honestly, like if we were doing like a top 10 or something, like his list would probably be on my top 10, and then my list would be on his, like that kind of thing where it's like, oh, this is perfect. So it's like we both had tons to talk about all the albums, and I thought we had a great spread. When I look at like both our top fives and I think of the bands and albums that were like covered just in those 10, I think we really did a nice like representation of like why we love Fat, you know what I mean? And in a way, because I was worrying too, because at first I was like, are both of us gonna make a list and it's like us just basically saying our favorite records are like the first like 5 years of Fat or something, you know what I mean? Because like the 90s or even just from the first decade, basically I thought maybe our list would both just be like top 5 like Fat bands from the 90s, you know what I mean? It'd be like we would basically both our lists would be like Lagwagon, No Effects, Face to Face. They'd just be the same list with like different albums, But thankfully it wasn't that at all, and I had a blast with them. So that'll be out next week, and may even be out now because quite frankly, this comes out Friday. That one will be out Monday, so we're only talking a few days here. If you're listening to this day of though Friday later on tonight. From 10 to midnight, since it is Friday night, doing the radio show. And if you didn't know, I started last month, but we're going to start doing like themed playlists at the beginning of each month. So like last month I did an all drive-through record set, and tonight's episode is going to be all Twin Cities bands, all St. Paul and Minneapolis. And I will say pretty dominant on the Minneapolis side. My theory, because when you start to look it up, every band says they're from Minneapolis, and when it comes to the Twin Cities, it's always Minneapolis, not really St. Paul. Like Husker Du, I feel is like one where it's like I feel like they were like, no, we're a St. Paul band, but like I think even St. Paul bands just say Minneapolis. I just assume the way that it's set up, it just seems like everyone's just fucking lying, and which I mean I guess you're not lying either. They're kind of the same, but at that point I just say, we're a Twin Cities band. We're not one or the other. We're fucking both. Or you can be from Bloomington. That's the real like fence sitting. You just right in the middle there. Just ride that fence. But that's going to be a lot of fun doing that later tonight, playing all those songs and just having a good time. A lot of, and I'm by no means like a Minneapolis or St. Paul like music historian in the sense of, I mean, I know a lot of bands and love. I think so many amazing artists have come from that scene in those cities that like people don't realize, and really good. But I mean, just going through like some of my favorites, I mean, there's definitely overlaps of like members where it's like, oh yeah, like this dude was in this band and then I'll play him again later. And, just a good summary of like what makes the music coming from there so damn good. Maybe check that out tonight if you're listening when this comes out. That'll be our first one of July here. And I'm excited. I actually might be seeing my first, speaking of traveling, when I do go to Denver later this month. I think, I haven't got 100% down, but I do have a buddy who has an extra ticket for Arches of Loaf in Chicago, and I'm driving right through there. So I'm thinking that's probably going to happen. I may be seeing Arch of the Loaf later this month, which would make me very happy because I haven't been to a show since October of 2019, and I've never seen Arch of the Loaf live. So that would be really, really amazing. I would, and Chicago is always a fun city and a good place to see a show. So I would be honored if my first show back post pandemic was Archers of Loaf. But I'll let you know if that ends up happening. I'm sure I'll be talking about it on here. But yeah, getting into June for a second, as we're supposed to here on the June rundown. But yeah, I gotta say I've been on a huge Dramarama kick since talking to John Easdale. That was definitely the highlight of last month's shows, I would say. If you haven't heard that one, my interview with John was really, really cool. I was happy. I was talking to to someone on Twitter the other day who follows us. I love the Mats, which is the best name. I mean, that is a perfect name because I too love the Mats. But he said he checked out the interview and then went and picked up Color TV and their other album, Everybody Dies, that came out in 2005. And just made me very, very happy because that's the whole point of this, that you go check out the music, of the artists that I'm playing or interviewing. So it made me very happy that he hit me up the other day and said that he listened to it. I was like, yeah, and then went and grabbed those albums. That makes me very happy because that's the whole point here, is to and including bands like that where it's like people may not realize, like, they know who Dramarama is. It was like, oh, I didn't know they had a new album out, like, oh, I didn't know they were putting out like new music. And it's like, yeah, and it's really fucking good. So like, if I can spread the word on that, I obviously want to do that any way I can. But that was definitely my favorite episode of last month. Runner-up would definitely be the just that really impromptu episode with Kyle talking about Take Off Your Pants and Jacket turning 20 years old. That was a lot of fun. And just very sad. I mean, if you haven't seen the news, I'm sure you have. But with Mark Hoppus announcing that he is getting chemotherapy for cancer, just very, very sad, and just really, it's so weird. Like a few days before he came out and was like, said, announced that he had cancer and everything. I was just randomly thinking about, like, I was driving and I listen to a lot of older music and stuff where, like, there's certain bands, like say the Ramones, where all the original members are dead. There's a lot of like legendary, artists and stuff that like I've gotten into way later after they died and things like that. And I was just thinking about like, wow, like Blink is one of those ones in my era where they're that band for me where like I think of those three guys like people probably thought of the Beatles when all four of them were alive. Like you have like these living legends. And, it was just so weird, to see that. And I know Mark's doing well and everything, and I did speedy recovery, obviously. But it reminds you that, like, yeah, like, a lot of these people you look up to and shit are just, they're human, they're human too. And that is a very human thing to then see that, that he had cancer. Extremely sad. And, obviously everyone's rooting for him. And crazy to see that, though. I think that was just a few days after we recorded that as well. And I don't know. I mean, I saw people, like, saying different things online and stuff, just wishing him well. But it's like, I don't know. There's not a lot to say. It's just so, it's so sad. And I mean, I hope he does better. And, the fact that, I mean, so many people, including myself, who don't personally know the guy, have never met him, have such an emotional reaction, to that kind of news and stuff. I mean, hopefully at least shows him how loved and respected he is in the music community and everything. But obviously, like everyone else, joining in and wishing Mark well. But that was another fun one, talking about Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, just a classic. And that is another one I've definitely played. I get into that, I will say, normally after interviewing someone or doing an episode where like I talk about an album or, just a band in general, I will get on a kick, like Alkaline Trio, like, God damn it. That's been, ever since our top 5 Alkaline Trio songs episode, I've been listening to a good amount of Alkaline Trio, specifically God damn it. And same with Dramarama. Listen to a lot of Dramarama and Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. And a lot of that stuff I've been listening to and just enjoying it, kind of going back, and Dramarama too, because there's stuff, I got into them so later on, and, not that they have a huge catalog, but they have like 7 records. And there's definitely some songs and stuff that I've either overlooked or only heard once or twice and forgotten how good they are. And, just kind of like delving into their catalog and just having a great time doing it. Insomniac is another one to this day. Like, if you listen to the radio show ever since, it's been like a year, but like talking about Insomniac on here, it's just Kyle convinced me, and he was 100% right. And I don't know how I never saw it before. That was the best Green Day record, and like I listen to it constantly. I had it a ton on my trip this week, going to and coming back from New Jersey. A lot of Insomniac. I noticed that is a good driving one. That's a good like driving record because it just never really slows down. You know what I mean? It's just the whole way through. It is. It's kind of perfect for like keeping you pumped. And I don't mind that. I don't mind getting in a funk where I listen to a really good album too much. You know what I mean? That's not a bad problem to have. But a lot of older stuff. We'll get into new music and new music that came out in June, and there's a decent amount of it. Danny Elfman, which obviously, film composer or score composer, but Oingo Boingo will always be his gold. It will always be like his masterpiece or like the best thing he's done in my heart. Oingo Boingo, great band, great songs. But he just put out a record and really good, Big Mess. And it's like demented rock. You know what I mean? It has that. It sounds like Danny Elfman wrote it, and I enjoy it. And also, Late Waves put out a great record. We'll play something off that here in a minute with Hell to Pay. AFI put out a new one, Bodies, one of my favorite in quite a while from them. I think probably my favorite post-reunion album from them. Rise Against with a new one, Nowhere Generation. Less Than Jake and Kill Lincoln just put out a brand new split. New one from Authority Zero, Ollie Oxen Free. Lost in Society just put out their Stay Jaded EP. The Interrupters with a new live one, live in Tokyo. Lovebreaker came out with Primary Colors. I've been listening to that one a good amount too. That's a fun summer record. If you want a fun, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, just a fun windows down hot summer day summer record, go check out Primary Colors by Lovebreaker. Really good. And also I believe they're from the UK if I'm not mistaken. And the Kudas put out a great Alien Vacation EP. We'll play something off that here in a minute as well. Jim Ward of At the Drive-In and Sparta. He just put out his new solo record, which is really good, Daggers. And the Mountain Goats put out a new one, Dark in Here. And Mannequin Pussy put out a brand new EP called Perfect. And I've known of them for a while. This is the really first time, I'll be honest, really checking out their music. And I really like this EP. It is really damn good. Really cool album art, too. I enjoy the album art, too. It just looks really fucking cool. So everything about it is rad. Go check them out. So they're another one we'll play for you right now. I got a few songs for you. And we'll kick it off with Mannequin Pussy with To Lose You off their new EP, Perfect, right here on the June rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. To Lose You off their new EP, Perfect. All right, I got a few pieces of music news here for you real quick. The originally slated for 2020 co-headliner tour with Bad Religion and Alkaline Trio, which was definitely one of my most anticipated of 2020. Obviously, just like every other tour on the planet, that got canceled. But now it is being rescheduled for October and November of this year, and the fall tour is going to start and end in California, and along the way is going to hit Detroit, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, St. Paul, Richmond, Chicago, Portland, and many more. Going to hit the whole country, and tickets are now on sale, and War on Women will be the support act for the entire tour. I'm very excited about this. I'm pretty sure I talked about this as news back when it was originally going to happen, a year ago. And I got to say, everyone's announcing shows right now. I mean, if you're following bands online, everyone's announcing shows, and which is a good thing. But at the same time, I feel overloaded, and I feel like half of them I just forget about. I'll hear about a band touring or a package tour happening, and just it almost becomes white noise or static. It's just it falls in with the sea of thousands of other tours they're about to, basically this month, I think, really be the real start of seeing, summer tours and then into fall touring and shit for the rest of the year. But anyways, with that said, this is still probably my most looked forward to. I mean, both of them. Bad Religion, always a good show. Alkaline Trio, one of my favorite bands, always a good show. And I saw Bad Religion back in 2018. I have not seen Alkaline Trio live since, I'm trying to think now. 2014, I think. Skate and Surf. No. I saw them. Yes. It's so funny as I'm on microphone, you're hearing, I'm debating in my head and debating myself the last time I saw Alkaline Trio. But no, it would have been with Newfound Glory and H2O in Pittsburgh for the Newfound Glory Alkaline Trio co-headliner back in 2000. No, oh my God, I'm so fucking wrong. It is Skate and Surf 2014. I'm getting my years wrong. That was the Pittsburgh was 2013. Yes, the last time I saw them would have been Skate and Surf 2014. And, great show, but it's been a really, really long time since I've seen them live and would very much like to see them live again. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't remember the dates, but like I just said, they're playing Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and I think Cleveland as well. And that's like the trifecta around me. Those are all within 3 hours. I mean, there's a good chance I try to, maybe not all three, but I'd say I'm probably good for at least two of those. I would say at least Buffalo and Cleveland. I would, unless I'm really taken by it. If they were playing different sets, I might throw a third one in there. But if they're playing the same sets, I could easily see that twice, and I probably could see it more. But yeah, this is easily my most excited for like the rest of the year. Like, there's a lot of shows that I'm like, I think once they start happening too, because that's the other thing is things are getting announced. Once they're like in front of you and happening, like, if I'm like in a city and it's like, oh, so-and-so's playing, it's like, yeah, I'm going to have to go. But like as of right now, I feel like I keep seeing all these announcements that like I forget about them like almost instantly, and again, it's no diss to the bands or like the artists touring and stuff. There's just so many of them, I've went months with, not caring about shows because there were none to all of a sudden being like, yo, every fucking band you've ever heard of is touring this summer and fall. So, we're kind of going into that, which again, I'm not complaining because it means that, the pandemic, everything getting better and people not getting sick and live music coming back is a very good thing. So, I mean, not like a bad problem to have, but yeah, that is up there. I'm very excited for that show and shows if I get my way. And another very cool piece of news, Suicide Machine singer Jason Navarro, he has been teasing on Instagram that there's new music coming from the band very, very soon. And he did announce the Suicide Machines are recording at Black Sheep Audio in Michigan, and mentioned that we'll be hearing some outtakes that didn't make Revolution Spring, which makes me very happy. I love that record. And if you want to see those videos, like I said, it's on the Instagram page, and it's them in studio, see some of their gear playing and recording with their producer and everything. Very cool. Revolution Spring, amazing record, one of my favorites of last year, and I would love to hear what those outtakes sound like, because that whole album, like front to back, was such a consistently good album. And I'd love to hear what comes out of that. Sometimes bands say like outtakes from an album, I'm kind of like, I'll check it out. Again, it's like I'm gonna listen to it, but it's like my excitement level isn't like through the roof, because normally you kind of have that thought of like, well, why weren't they on the original album? Like you gotta wonder the quality of them, like, are they any good? But with this one, I really don't doubt that, because like, and the other thing too is the Suicide Machines, there's 15 years in between albums. They're not just writing songs to write songs. You know what I mean? Like I kind of get the idea that any full fleshed out songs that the Suicide Machines have are probably good because they're not just writing songs to like fulfill an album cycle, So I'm looking forward to that. I'm definitely, and including not having to wait another 15 years, I'm very excited that we're going to get new music from them. And one last piece of little music news, some more touring. But Pure Noise Records, they just announced the 2021 Pure Noise Records Tour featuring State Champs, Real Friends, 4 Years Strong, Just Friends, and Bearings. And the tour is going to be running September 14th through October 22nd. And they'll be hitting the entire United States, Pittsburgh, Fort Lauderdale, Indianapolis, San Diego, Boston, tons more. And this won't be their first one. I have been to this tour before. The label has done the Pure Noise Records Tour multiple times throughout the years. And and it won't be the first one State Champs headlining either, I know that much. And another kind of neat thing too, if you're a fan and interesting, but this tour is also going to be for Real Friends, their first one since parting ways with their former vocalist Dan Lampton. And they have a new singer now, Cody Muraro, I believe you say his last name's Muraro. At least that's how I'm saying it. Maybe I'm fucking it up. But I heard they put out 2 songs. I heard one of them, and not bad. Like, I'm not... Real Friends is interesting. Like I've never been like the biggest Real Friends fan. Like you kind of forget it now, but they were, as far as the scene goes, they were huge for a few years there. And I mean, they're still pretty big, but I mean, like, they were like that, you know what I mean? They were the it band for a minute as far as like Warped Tour, emo, like pop punk bands go. And, you know, I was always kind of like, I guess I never liked them to the amount that some people did. But I mean, I always liked them. Like they definitely had some jams, and I'd be lying if I said they didn't. You know, I think like with a lot of people, I think too, that was the thing is like fan base and sometimes like the whole image and stuff of the band too. Like some of that stuff would always kind of be like, I don't like the music's good. The other stuff attached to it, I wouldn't always, I wasn't always super fan of. But I did hear one of the new songs they put out with the new singer, and not bad at all. You know, I mean, I think it's cool they continue to go on. A lot of times, you can sometimes lose certain members, and like, you know, it sucks, but it may not like be a huge loss. But like singer is almost always a big one, just because the sound is going to be different. Like I know he wasn't the main songwriter; their bass player, I think, writes most of the lyrics, if not all of them. So I mean, you're going to get a lot of the same of that. But you know, obviously the singer's just such a, you know, like anyone can hear that. You know, the average person might not be able to tell that like a band got a new bass player and like, you know, the old one played a P bass and this guy, the new one, plays a Stingray, and like, you know, his tone's really different and shit. Like, you know, a singer, you can hear that right away. So I mean, you know, good luck to them. It will. I'm sure a lot of people are excited to hear the new singer, what he'll sound like on those old songs. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. I got to say, a few of these bands, I'll admit, I mean, maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know I don't know two of the bands on the list. I gotta say, not, and that's nothing against them. I just haven't, you know, Pure Noise is another one. Like pop punk, the resurgence of the 2010s. I mean, Pure Noise put out some of the best records, you know, of like 2010s pop punk. Like I feel like there were years there, like any bands I'd go see up in Erie play like Basement Transmissions or anywhere else really. Like it was like a pop punk band, whether it was a Pure Noise band headlining it, somewhere on there probably was at least a Pure Noise band, you know, like on support. The interesting thing, and I mean it happens with music. Just I mean it's music; it'll happen forever. But like just watching bands like throughout the years too, because a lot of these bands have played multiple years. And seeing like shifts of like, oh, like if it was this year, you know, 4 Year Strong would be headlining, you know, or if it was a certain year, like if it was like 2015 or 16, Real Friends would probably be the headliner on this. If it was like, you know, like 08, 09, 4 Year Strong would be the headliner, you know, things like that. But, and another one too, you're like bringing up like Basement Transmissions, seeing all those Pure Noise bands. I mean, another thing like State Champs, you know, I haven't loved the direction they went in. But I mean, I saw that band open for Handguns, and like 3 people there knew who they were and were singing along. And then each time they would come back to Erie, and I watched it. I was one of the people. They got me the first time. I was like, I picked up their 7-inch, Overslept, and like after that, I was like, oh fuck yeah, like I'm totally into this band. And it was amazing. Every time they came back to Erie, you went from 3 people knew you to now you have like 20 people up front singing along. You know, to like Remedy, like, you know, like jumping up, fucking like taking the mic and stuff. Like, I think that's so cool to see that. You know, it's like, again, like I'm not huge on State Champs. I have been for a long time, and like, again, nothing wrong. They're good at what they do. It's just not my cup of tea. But I do think that's very rad. Credit where credit's due. Watching a band like that go from, you know, playing to a few people to, you know, headlining the Pure Noise Records tour. And also the amount of people who will probably come out to see this. I mean, I was amazed. They headlined when I saw the tour in 2014 at the Waiting Room in Buffalo. And like even then at that point, I was like, I just saw this band 2 fucking years ago. Like it was only 2012. I saw them play to like 3 people singing along. You know, like half the people went outside for a cigarette break before Handguns played. You know, like while State Champs were playing. You know, so I mean, it's very cool to see that. But also, yeah, like the lineup, it's just very interesting when you see these throughout the years, because it's like it's like it just depends the year, but it's like some years you could see this one band being the biggest, and then others. It's the same with festivals. Like festivals are always like that, where it's interesting to be like, oh, that band's like further down on the, you know what I mean? Like their name's not as big as it might have been, you know, 10 years ago, or the other way where it's like it keeps getting bigger, you know. But yeah, always interesting, and another tour being announced. I don't know. I've liked State Champs, Real Friends, and 4 Years Strong. None of them, I will say, admittingly, none of them I listened to a whole lot lately, but I've seen them all live throughout the years, and all of them put on a great show. And it's kind of weird too, because like in a way, it's not a nostalgia tour, but it's like these bands have been around long enough where it's like, well, fuck, I remember seeing State Champs, like I said, on the Pure Noise Records tour 7 years ago, like things like that. I mean, 4 Years Strong, my God, I forget they've been around as long as they have too. You kind of forget they were part of that whole easycore scene in like the mid 2000s and stuff, But another band that has definitely written some jams throughout the years, But another tour announced, and I like throwing those out there again. It's like I have a few that I'm really excited for, but a lot of them I kind of I get excited for a second. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like you hear so many that it's like it gets pushed out because all of a sudden you're hearing the announcement of another one. It's kind of like that deal. But I like to throw them out here because you want to go see live music, and it's coming back. So there's a few things to go check out. But yeah, those were some things announced this month. I keep saying this month. I keep forgetting it's July now. Last month. But that is our June rundown. And I hope you enjoyed it. And again, apologies, it's so damn late. But guess what? Vintage vinyl was too important not to go to. Plus, to be honest, I keep saying that. I was already on Route 6. So, I mean, this already would have been probably late until like Wednesday. But definitely now you're not getting it till Friday. But hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you so much for checking it out. And make sure you check back in just a few days here on a Monday. Be putting out that top 5 Fat Records with Joey Cobra, talking about our top 5 Fat releases. And it was a really fun one. It was a really good one, so I think you'll enjoy that. And we'll have a bunch of other cool stuff for you coming up later in July. And like I said, too, if you're listening to this day it comes out, check out the Power Chord Hour radio show tonight, doing all Twin Cities, 2 hours, 10 to midnight Eastern. And a bunch of bands that you'll probably expect me to play, and then some stuff you might not expect me to play. So I'm excited for that. And you can check out the radio show every Friday night. That is on 107.9 WRFA in Jamestown, New York. And you can stream the station from anywhere at WRFALP.com. And make sure you follow the show at Power Chord Hour on Instagram, on Facebook, and Twitter. We're on the 3 of those. Go follow us on social media. If you would, it'd be very nice. Rate and subscribe the podcast. Leave a review on iTunes. That helps out a lot. And hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. I have free Power Chord Hour stickers. Would love to send you some out. And, like I mentioned earlier, too, you just want to talk music or something. You want to request a song for the radio show. Any of that, hit me up at powerchordhour@gmail.com. I always love hearing from people. And yeah, that is the episode for this week. So for the Power Chord Hour, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thanks for listening.